Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here with another album battle. I haven't done one of these for a while, and I've been promising to do this one for a while to a friend of mine. Name's Mark. Shout out to Mark. This one I've promised probably about 2 years ago. I was going to do it a long time ago, but sometimes things get busy and I'd forget, and it gets put on the back burner, and I just kind of forgotten all about doing it. But I was thinking about it today. I'm like, I never did that album battle. Today it's Genesis self-titled album and Peter Gabriel's So. The reason I'm choosing these two is because I knew Genesis before this album, but this is the album that really got me into Genesis. I had heard, Abacab and Three Sides Live and stuff, and of course all the songs on the radio growing up, but nothing really struck me all that strong. And the earlier stuff I just wasn't into back then. 83, I was pretty young. I wasn't listening to that kind of music quite yet. I was still getting into the heavier stuff, and this wasn't quite as heavy. But anyway, I heard Mama, and I was like, holy, what was that? Phil Collins doing his hey hey thing on there, which I'm not even going to attempt to do, but I think you guys all know what I'm talking about on that song. So that's why I chose this one. And then Peter Gabriel, same thing. I knew a bunch of his singles and all his first 4, I think it was, self-titled albums. Maybe it was only 3. Actually, I think it was 4. I don't know. Somebody probably will correct me on that one. I've been corrected a couple times on other things. I kind of wing these things in case you haven't noticed, but I took a few notes on this one only because it's been a while since I've listened to them, and I just want to refresh my brain. And I didn't want to get anything wrong on this one. I just did a Animals review, and I forgot that David Gilmour had actually played bass on a couple of the songs, and I said something about Roger Waters, so I don't want to make that mistake again. So anyway, getting into it, Mama's the lead-off track on Genesis. We're going to start with that one because that's the one I mentioned first. And that song, I've actually watched a couple specials on the writing of that song, and it's kind of interesting. They start out with like a really mono-type sounding, drony, dreary type intro, and then when it kicks in, it really kicks in, and it goes full stereo, full mix, all that stuff. And when I was young, I didn't know all that stuff. All I knew was it drew you in, and it's got the dynamics, the thing that songs today just don't seem to have. The song builds to like, you've all heard the song, but by the end of the song, Phil is like singing his butt off, and it's just full force Genesis, and that really just caught my attention. I love that song, so that's really what did it for me. That was what drew me into Genesis. I think I've said that about 5 times now, but anyway, so if that song goes right into That's All, which is a strange segue to me because That's All is nothing like Mama. Actually, That's All kind of reminds me of the earlier Genesis stuff. I think that was, I know it was one of the singles. I don't remember if it was the second or third or whatever, but there's a few singles off of this one, but that one didn't really do much for me. It's okay. I know there's probably a lot of people out there like it. Obviously, it was a big single. That one just, still to this day, doesn't do a whole lot for me. However, Home by the Sea, track 3 and track 4, second Home by the Sea, love those both. I just absolutely love those songs. Second Home by the Sea is kind of like the instrumental version of, it's an instrumental interpretation and more of Home by the Sea, and it's actually longer too. Just cool song. I mean, it's hard to explain what this stuff sounds like to people who've never heard it before, so luckily it's an older album and most people have heard it, so you know what I'm talking about. They have a sound all of their own, and it's kind of funny, after 3 songs, 4th one's an instrumental. That's like the end of side 1, because I had this on vinyl. I got this one on vinyl. I mean, back in the day, everything was vinyl before I started getting everything on CDs, and I think I still have this one actually in my collection somewhere. Just great songs, and then you flip it over and we hear Illegal Alien, which it was kind of funny when I was listening to this about a year or 2 ago. I was listening to this again when I originally intended to do this. That was, the lyrics, obviously you've probably heard the song because I believe this was a single as well. I was thinking, man, could they have released this song in this day and age? I don't know. It's kind of funny listening back, thinking what didn't bother people back then. But it's a fun song. It's just in the keyboard parts kind of carries the whole song. The vocal melody is obviously really good too. Everything Phil sings, in my opinion, is really catchy. But yeah, the keyboard melody in this song is really cool. And then we get to like the first, like what I would call ballad, Taking It All Too Hard. I think is just a phenomenal song. It's great. It's just heartfelt singing by Phil. Just great. I mean, these guys are great musicians. What can you say? And Just a Job You Do is the third track on that side. Also another upbeat, happy sounding type song. The lyrics are kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Rutherford wrote those lyrics, and they're kind of, actually for Lee Allen, he wrote those lyrics too. Kind of funny. He's got a sense of humor about him, that's for sure. And then it ends with Silver Rainbow, and it's going to get better. Silver Rainbow was kind of like the only song on this side that it's okay. I mean, it's a good song, but it didn't really, I probably skipped it quite a few times, but It's Gonna Get Better, I think, is a great song. Also another Rutherford lyrics on those, but those are, yeah, he writes funny songs or funny lyrics and really heartfelt lyrics. You know, and it's just, it just ends on a really great song. You know, nothing really bad on this album at all. You know, That's All and Silver Rainbow are just kind of a little bit of lulls for me, but nothing bad at all. And you know, it's mainly just the three guys making this whole album, and I think they did a great job on it. Now, Peter Gabriel, So this one has like all kinds of guest musicians on it, or not guest musicians, session musicians, I guess. Peter Gabriel, you know, is like a musical genius, I think, because he always was trying to like do something new and unique. I mean, that snare sound that Phil Collins is famous for actually came from Peter Gabriel and sessions he was doing back in the day. On one of the earlier albums before this, I can't remember which one, because they're all self-titled. So I don't remember what it was, like 1, 2, 3, or 4 or whatever it was, but anyway, he was the one that came up with that sound. He's always been kind of an innovator. I mean, he was also the one that started dressing up in all those weird costumes on stage, which nobody had really done, you know, back in the day there. Anyway, this album, it was kind of a collaboration between him and Daniel Lanois, who I think he's did some stuff with U2, if I'm remembering it right there. He was one of the creators of all that stuff. Brian Eno, and I don't think Brian Eno had anything to do with this one. I may be wrong, but you know, he did stuff with U2 as well. They kind of created a lot of weird sounds and soundscapes. Yeah, but that's a little bit off topic there. So anyway, the thing about Peter Gabriel is he doesn't like cymbals. He liked to record all his albums without cymbals, just like the drums. The only thing I think he had on this one that was any cymbals was he had Stuart Copeland from The Police come in and play hi-hat on Red Rain, which is the lead song off of this album here, which to me is one of my favorite Peter Gabriel songs of all time. It's probably top 1 or 2 song. I could actually probably rate this as my favorite Peter Gabriel song. I can't even think of one that I actually like better off of this, or better, not even off of this, just better. That's a really great song. It's just great way to start an album, let me tell you. Although I believe the lead single was Sledgehammer. I don't know, I don't have all that information in front of me, but that was track number 2, and that was the one, it was the big video and all the strange, weird start-stop filming in it. I forget what they call that, but claymation, I think they had some of that in there too. It was a weird video, it's huge on MTV. Good song. It's got a cool little bass thing going on to it. And that's another thing I got to point out. Tony Levin plays bass on the majority of this album. And he is one of the probably most phenomenal bass players, in my opinion, I've ever seen, even to this day. I mean, he invented the stick thing with his, playing the bass strings with his drumsticks attached to his fingers. That's like a thing he's come up with. They actually have a band called the Stickmen, and he does that in there. He's played with a the members of Dream Theater and one of their offshoots there. Liquid Tension Experiment, I think, is what that one is. And he's just been on such a musician on tons of people's albums. But he was like Peter Gabriel's like main go-to guy for bass forever. I don't think he played on every song on this, but he played on the majority of them. I could probably check that real quick here, because like I said, I was taking notes. I don't want to say too much stuff that's wrong. Yeah, he plays on tracks 1 through 5, and then he does a drumstick thing on track 7, which is Big Time. I think that's the first time he did that was on this, because I did see a documentary about the making of this album, and I remember them showing them doing that, and I thought that was pretty cool. So that's actually where that all started from. Track 3 actually, let's get back up there, is the song he did with Kate Bush. And Kate Bush is actually kind of popular again. That show Stranger Things made her popular again. I've never watched that show, so I don't even know what it is, but I've heard that song Running Up the Hill about 50 times since that it was featured on there. Not a big Kate Bush fan myself. She's got a cool voice on this song. I don't have any of her stuff. I've really never been into her. I thought it was just a little bit avant-garde for me. It was just kind of strange, and it's still to this day just really not gotten into her stuff. She's probably phenomenal musician. I've heard Running Up the Hill and Wuthering Heights and a couple other of her songs, and I know David Gilmour kind of discovered her or something and did some stuff with her, but I don't know. I just never gotten into her. This song is okay. It's not bad, but it's nothing that I could have lived without. So anyway, that going on to the track 4, That Voice Again. It's just another one of those songs that's kind of, I don't know. Didn't do much for me. So, I mean, side 1, Red Rain, Sledgehammer, I think are great. The other 2, not so much for me. And then, yes, I did have the vinyl of this one. So, flip it over, and we went to side 2, In Your Eyes, which, everybody remembers from that movie with John Cusack holding, the boombox over his head. Can't even remember the name of the movie now, but yeah, it was a huge scene in that one. It's an okay song. I think it's cool. I like it. Not anything, that I thought was great like everybody else does, but it's a good song nonetheless. But anyway, on to Mercy Street, which this is where they kind of start losing me a little bit on this. The side 2 was, I don't know, just a little bit bland. Didn't care for that song too much. Track 7, Big Time, is the one, like I said, they first used the sticks on Tony Levin's fingers there. He just fretted the strings, and somebody else was actually playing the strings, and I can't remember who it was in the video now. But anyway, or the documentary I watched, I can't remember who it was. I could probably find that information here somewhere, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. Anyway, track 8 was What Do We Do What We're Told, and then the parentheses, Milgram's 37. It was one of those tracks where basically I turned the record off after Big Time because I didn't care for that song too much. And if you had one of the cassettes, there was actually a bonus song on there called This Is the Picture. And it had Laurie Anderson on it, and I did not have that growing up, and it's only recently that I've heard that song. Also one of them that I'm not too sad that I didn't have it, because it's just one I didn't care for too much. So hopefully nobody out there is offended by that. It was Larry Klein that played bass on the other 2 tracks, 5 and 6, so I had to look that up real quick before I went too far. So it would have been In Your Eyes and Mercy Street. He played bass on those, and it was Tony Levin on everything else. So anyway, but it was an album that made him huge. And yeah, Big Time, there's another weird video for that one too, I remember that. So anyway, out of these 2 albums, I think it's pretty crystal clear which one I'm going to choose. We're going with Genesis. I love that album. It's still great. I probably will put it on now after listening or going through this again. I'm probably going to go listen to it again because, Mama, that whole first side 1 is just phenomenal. I mean, even That's All is not bad. Like I said, I wasn't super into it back in the day, but it's one of those that's it's okay. It doesn't annoy me like it used to. But yeah, anyway, I don't know if anybody out there saw the last Genesis tour or saw anything with Phil out there. I don't know what your opinions are on that. I know It looked pretty rough from what I saw. You know, I don't know if anybody saw it and was kind of disappointed or happy. And then it's got Phil's kid playing drums on it, and he seems like he's pretty killer, actually. So hopefully he goes on and does something, you know, music still. I'm sure he will. It's kind of sad to see what's happened with Phil. Hope he gets better and, you know, heals up pretty quick. I don't know exactly what all his medical problems are, but, you know, he's having trouble standing up and just hitting the notes. It wasn't happening from what I saw. So there's a whole documentary out on the making of that whole tour too that I watched. I don't know, man, it was just depressing for me. I don't know. I just really got into this band pretty big after listening to this. You know, I've got all their CDs and or albums actually. Went back and, you know, kind of became a late bloomer as far as like getting into this band, and I've really grown to love the stuff Genesis has done. You know, about Steve Hackett after he left and all the stuff he's done, I think is phenomenal. And I know Eddie Van Halen gets a lot of the credit for the finger tapping, but Steve Hackett was doing it before Eddie too. So I mean, no, don't mean to diss Eddie or anything like that, but I think that might be where he got some of the ideas from. Because if you listen back to those early Genesis albums, you'll hear that. You know, and then stuff. Actually, that album GTR that Steve Hackett did with Steve Howe, and I think that Jonathan the Mover was playing on drums on that, produced by Jeff Downs. Max Bacon was the singer. I can't remember the singer's name. Max Bacon. That's a good album. It's very pop, but it's got progressive elements at the same time. It's something you guys should check out. I should probably do that on my Overlooked Gems. That's actually a pretty good album. I think people have forgotten about. But anyway, getting off on a tangent. Tell me what you guys think. You know, what your personal choices are on this. I know there's probably some people out there that are going to choose the Peter Gabriel one. Love to hear, you know, your opinions on all this. And, you know, I'm sure the stuff I'm forgetting to mention on this, because I usually do. So whatever I'm forgetting to mention, go ahead and make a comment on it. And tell me what you guys think. Like, subscribe, all that great stuff that I always ask for. And, you know, this is just supposed to be like, in my opinion, the reason I do this is I just like having conversations with people about music. I just love talking about music. Obviously, these aren't like new albums by any means. I just love talking about them. So that's kind of what this is for, is people to have fun talking about it. There's no right or wrong choice. It's just we're talking about albums that we love, and that's kind of what this is all intended for. So let's leave your comments below, and talk to you guys later. I'll find a couple more to match up here.